Hello everybody, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. And in this video I am going to be talking about the Divine Grace spawn first, and in another video I'll be talking about the treasure spawn. And let's actually get to this. Okay, so right here we got Prometheus, Wielder of Flaming Fist, and that's legitimately the only featured thing they have, so this may be a bit short, hopefully, at least to say. So let's get to the move. Okay, it's going to target one random enemy out of all enemies with an ability power of 200. With a success value of 100, it's going to hit 10 times for physical damage. It's going to be fire. So this will definitely hit everybody, but this is not going to hit, like, it's only going to hit a total of 10 times, regardless of who it hits. It's not going to hit everybody for 10 times. It's going to hit a total of 10 times. So it can hit, like, one person 5 times, and the other person 3 times, and then the other person 2 times. So that right there would be 10 hits total, and it'd be done, just completely done. The ability power on this monster is very, very strong, and it does a lot of damage if you're using it against a single target enemy. By like that, I mean like boss battles, when you're doing like when your team's fighting like one exact monster, perhaps, say, right? This for sure is a lot of ability power for a single target hitting move. It almost does as much as Ariel and Odin. So if you know how much those two do ability power wise, this monster almost does as much ability power wise as well. And it's not the end. It's also going to get, the ability power is also going to be boosted by 10 for each increase in skill level. So this is going to be a very, very strong attacking monster, but it's really only going to be strongly orientated and best successful damage wise when you're actually hitting one enemy. 2 enemies, it could still be strong, but specifically speaking, you probably want to be hitting 1 enemy when you're using this type. For damage, that is. For damage. Let's actually talk about the rest of the abilities. Because regardless of whether you're going against whatever, some of these abilities are definitely very nice, and you should use them when you can. Okay, so targets all allies. It's going to increase the physical and magical ability power by 60 for 60 seconds. But Azure, how is it going to do that when the ability power buff limit that you could get, like when you're actually battling or whatever, is 40. It's going to increase the ability power buff limit for physical and magical attacks by 20 for 60 seconds. That's how it's going to turn that 40 that you usually would only be allowed to get into a 60. So this is a good ability power buffing monster. It may not buff the stats, but it helps buff ability power buff limits, and that is for sure is going to increase damage, because the main 2 factors, excluding elemental sets and skills that are really going to help your damage, is stats and ability power. And because you're getting like one of those 2 buffs, so it's definitely going to help increase damage for sure. No matter what you're doing, it's going to help increase damage. Okay, so moving on from there, boost HP recovery effects by 50% for 90 seconds. If you're like running with a group that loves to use hero, especially in player versus enemy, it's not going to be much useful in player versus player, but player versus enemy, perhaps say, it's going to help out for sure, because that 70% healing reduction is going to turn the 20 and 28 jack squat compared to 70, 28 nothing. So that's very good right there. It's also going to give it 10% life drain for 60 seconds. This is a fantastic player versus enemy ability right here, because life drain pretty much is like everybody's a cleric. All you gotta do to heal is attack, and you're legitimately getting your health back. It's crazy, and that's very, very awesome. That could save a lot of cost on the cleric. That could save a lot of time for the cleric. That could save a lot of stress for the cleric. All you gotta do is cast life drain and make that happen. And to even support that more and everything surrounding it, increase cost recovery speed by 10 for 60 seconds. That means you're getting more cost. More cost means more attacking. More attacking means more of the health back from life drain, or you could get more Unison gouge because you have more cost to actually attack with and stuff like that. So that's very, very awesome. That's also going to be helpful as well, no matter what you're doing, except for maybe Colosseums. That cost recovery speed is going to be extremely helpful. It's also going to apply Blessing to yourself. Blessing is going to recover 50 cost. Increase the max HP by 100%. Nullify status element to use to gouge reduction effects. Reduces Unison cooldown time. Not Unison cooldown times. Reduces cooldown times for attacks by 50%. And it gives a continuous healing. So that's also going to be very, very helpful. For most situations, except it can be clutching Colosseum, but not really too much, because usually when you're doing like a full raid Unison, the game's pretty much over by that point. Somebody's gonna win. And it's also gonna apply fire element out to the ally field for 120 seconds. So if you're doing something that's fire orientated, that can only allow you to use fire monsters, like perhaps say the Crystal Sacred Altar, or the 40 cost dragons, or the 45 cost whenever they come out with the 45 cost, perhaps say, right? Stuff like this is going to be very, very helpful, because the only field buff you can cast during those time scenarios and situations will be the fire field. But on the flip side, the ironic thing about this whole scenario and situation is if you're not doing something that's element locked for the monsters, Aerial is going to be the best choice. And we don't know why you would be using this when you got Aerial, because Aerial legitimately gives the best buff, the best field buff out of all the monsters in the game. She gives 40% increased stats, not just like 2 stats like all these other elemental fields do. She gives a 40% increase in stats to all allies. She's going to give max HP increase and an elemental increase, and it's going to be for all elements. So she is absolutely the best deal when it comes to the buffs, still, field buffs. Ironically, I know, right? A 36 cost you don't have to will for anymore. You already set in stone when it comes to elemental field buffs, except for like a few scenarios and situations. But yeah, that's pretty much surrounding this monster and everything with it. This monster is great for guild battles. Not the best choice, but it definitely can come in handy with it. Its ability power buff. Its blessing will go through Unison block, Unison gauge reduction effects. There's no Unison gauge for the crystal defenses. Any status elements you may give to somebody, it's going to go through. Blessing's going to have a continuous heal as well, so if you need to heal, it's also going to happen. It's going to recover 50 costs. It's going to reduce cooldowns, so that way you're doing more DPS at least. It's got the increased cost recovery speed for all allies. It's got an ability power buff limit, so it's giving 60 ability power, so it can be very handy. Well, not very handy, but it can definitely come in handy for sure. It's definitely a helpful monster for guild battles, and also it's going to give a really good, like, a lot of score, because it's going to be a 37 cost. So that's everything surrounding that. This monster right here is definitely going to come in great handy for player versus enemy for sure. The monster is more orientated, and it shines a lot more player versus enemy than it does and anything else you will be doing. Can be used for guild battles for sure. A little helpful for guild battles. Coliseum, not as much. This can be used in Coliseum. You could do some potentially hardcore damage, but there are for sure better monsters out there, and you probably have like at least a few of them by now already for Coliseum. So definitely not a Coliseum monster. With Coliseum, I do mean dual rooms too. So moving on from there, now that we're done talking about that, let's actually talk about the Divine Grace spawn and everything it has surrounding around it. Okay, so this one's very, very odd, because I never seen them do this, but they're guaranteeing 1 SSR gear each time you spawn. It's going to be 15 gems for your first time, because it's going to be first time half off, so after that it's going to be 30 gems, and you're getting 1 chest, you're going to have bonus chance, and you're getting 50 to 200 medals. You are not... The chances of actually getting Prometheus right from the actual gear spawn is still technically, at least I believe it should be, especially considering they haven't done any of the rates up for the monsters, they just have new. There was a time where they actually did rates up for the monsters in the gear spawn, like the spawn 10. They haven't done that in a while, so they should be significantly low. Don't be tricked when it says 1 SSR guaranteed thinking you're going to get Prometheus, because it's actually quite the opposite. You're probably not going to get Prometheus at all. You'd be dang lucky. I think the chances of actually getting some of the like featured gear from the actual gear spawn itself is like the chance of getting struck by lightning. So it's very, very, very unlikely that you're actually going to be getting it from the actual gear spawn itself. So please don't count on that, because it's probably only something 1 out of 10,000 people that actually spawn this will get. So keep that in mind when you're doing the gear spawn and everything surrounding it. It's not going to be obtainable that way. They want you to really pay for this, if anything, or they want you to save a crap load of gems. I'm talking like it's around 600 gems to actually get the monster, because it's got to actually take around that much to actually probably get the monster in the first place. Okay, so moving on from there, they're also going to have a 27 cost SSR monster sub ticket. It's going to be after your first time. It's going to come with the bonus for that, so that's very, very interesting. So it's going to be pretty much, they already show you in the list right here what you're actually going to get from the ticket. It's going to go as low as 32 costs, literally 32 costs, all the way to the new monster. And from that being said, it's not exactly worth it, because the lower the cost, the higher the rates. So with that being said, it's going to be really, really hard to pull still the monster, the new featured monster, actually from the sub ticket at all, if anything. So keep that in mind when you're doing that as well. It's going to be extremely hard to pull that as well. Okay, so actually look at the jackpot and see what they have to offer. Okay, so they have the summoning scroll for the monster, or they have divine grace medals for 1,000. That's not bad at all. That's a pretty good amount. 1,000. They got 400 and 600 in side chests, so that's very, very good as well. That's regular. That's better than a regular divine grace slash treasure spawn would offer, because they usually offer 700 in the jackpot, and then 400 in the side chest, and then 600 in the side chest as well. So that's actually going to be 300 more you're actually obtaining through chests in total, and that right there is really, really awesome. You're also getting 50 to 200 for each spawn, so that right there is very, very awesome as well. So they offer a decent amount of medals. They offer a little more than they usually do, and because of that, that's really, really awesome. So it's making it quite easy to obtain some of the stuff, if not. Okay, so with this stuff right here, it's going to be divine physical testaments. Well, not divine physical testaments, it's going to be divine testaments. They're all going to be divine testaments. If you're working on a critical rates or critical hit chance build, like with the Noah gear, and you're a Lancer perhaps, or even if you're not a Lancer and you're rocking Noah gear and you're trying to work towards a critical chance build, these skills right here are useful. Other than that, I would stay away from these skills personally, because there are better skills out there you could be using for DPS and everything surrounding it, because these are really good. All they do is what a regular physical testament does, and then they increase critical hit rate chance if they manage to activate. These do have a decent activation rate. They do have a good proc rate for sure, and they do have stuff you can replace the attack with for sure. Triple snipe is not a bad one for sure, because, well, it's got 11 cost personally. I would personally, if you're looking for an ability right now to replace your regular attack as an archer, this new one over here with the gun does it, because you're going to be using astrolabe since it's a gun, and on top of it, it legitimately does more than triple snipe. Well, I'm not sure if it does more than triple snipe, but it does around as much as triple snipe. All it is one cooldown time extra and one cost extra, and it's already doing all that. So that right there is very, very awesome. You have that opportunity, a chance to do that. So personally, I'm not going to be talking about all these. These are something I've talked about before. To make this video short, I will be talking about the gear right here though, the defensive gear, just because I personally think this would be a good choice for me. The Fatal Testaments is why I'm talking about. This is the reason when I'm talking about they have all the spawns they recently come out with are stuff that's going to help me, because these for sure are going to help me. I do not have any Fatal Testament XXLs. Usually, there's two types of critical builds you could do. It's going to be around Fatal Testaments. Fatal Testaments are guaranteed critical hits, so when they proc, you're guaranteed to get a critical hit. If you attack 4 times for whatever, the whole ability is going to be a critical hit ability. Once Fatal Testament procs, it's over. The whole ability is going to do critical. So I use Fatal Testaments. I don't use the Noah gear because I'm not going to be rocking Lancer. Lancer is the highly most recommended class, considering that you could actually build critical rate. Or perhaps the, what's it called? The Mages. The Mages, they have Fanatic Soul, so they're also building critical chance. Those two classes are really the most recommended to use for the Noah gear, because you're already building, they already have abilities that you're most likely going to be using, if not using in the first place, to help with critical rates. So those right there are the recommended ones. Personally, for me, I think personally, for every other class, Fatal Testaments are going to be quick and to the point if you're looking for criticals. And yeah, I do rock Fatal Testaments, but all my Fatal Testaments are 33 cost or lower. They're between 33 and 30 costs. So if I were to get a 36 cost armor, that would be significantly more gear score. So I would get more gear score, I would add more defenses to my teammates' crystal, and because of that, we would survive longer. So that's why I'm saying this would be very, very helpful for me to actually get these, because these are Fatal Testament XXLs, but may have to skip on them because they came out with them at a really bad time. If they waited just 2 more days, I probably would have done this. I'm not even kidding you. So that's that surrounding everything around it. The spawn it's going to be 3k medals for all of the newer feature gear, so that's the thing that sucks about them. But considering they have a good amount of medals in here to support that, that's not bad whatsoever. So they do have a decent price for the medal exchange. The monster will be hard to obtain. Don't expect to obtain the monster in the summoning scroll if you are new. Not the summoning scroll, the jackpot, because it's gonna have low rates for sure. So you're very likely to be getting medals. And I mean by very likely, I'm talking like very likely to be getting medals rather than the monster. So keep that in mind when you're spawning. Getting the summoning scroll is probably not going to be possible even through the jackpot. It's a lot more likely to actually appear in the jackpot than it is the gear spawn, the spawn 10, but it's still very unlikely even then. They want you to pretty much work towards actually getting the medals to actually obtain the monster through the medal exchange, and that's going to cost a lot, so keep that in mind. So that's it for this video. Thank you for tuning in, thank you for watching, and I hope this helped out. This is the AzureWrath, and I'll catch you in the next video. I'm out. Peace.